Good evening. How are you? We're doing a sit and talk. This is John Flannery. Because of the wind, really. The weather is 39 degrees, which is okay and brisk, and I would just dress accordingly. But you couldn't hear me on the mic, so here I am. Um, the nation is dealing with the irrational politics of far right wing ideologues who favor the wealthy and seek to control and suppress the middle class. May sound strong, but think about it, and I think it's correct. And we have a couple of good examples of how our government is distorting what we thought we wanted, and the polls say we want, by a group of people who every day go further and further toward the monarchy that they wish to have, the autocracy, the rule of the few, the oligarchy, whatever word you want to choose, but not democracy, each of us being represented and involved, or the republic, people chosen to represent people who exercised a vote to put them there, and oaths of office in which they're supposed to preserve and protect our Constitution, our government, and they're not. So that's the set piece we have. This was further confounded when the craziness managed to taint 8 persons in the Senate, 1 an independent, 7 in the Democratic caucus. So that formed a coalition, a diseased coalition, to end the closing of the government and open it up again, still leaving great pain behind them. Now, I'm not going to go into the persons who betrayed their oath, who don't have an election next year, or by what reason, or favor, or fear, or honest belief they chose to do what they did, and to end the closing of the government, but not so fast. It's not going to happen so fast. It is still possible it won't happen at all on the terms that we're talking about. Let's go through the timetable a little bit. Next week, the Senate will meet to finish the job of what's going on with our government closed down. In other words, they'll open it up. The House is being called into town. They've been on recess for 50 days. They've been collecting money. They've been getting medical treatment if they needed it. They have expenses. There is not a single comfort that they have enjoyed in the past that they're not enjoying now. Yet these people have in their hand how one may eat, and if one ill, how one may be cared for. They have tried a couple of games to get us to what they claim is a full and fair solution. First, let's go over the bill that is the bill that the Republicans put together, that 7 Democrats and 1 independent agreed, that make it somewhat viable going forward, but not entirely. First of all, it reverses the 4,000 layoffs, and there'll be no more layoffs through January. And then what? Then there could be more layoffs. They have agreed in this bill that has not yet passed the Senate that SNAP will continue through September. That is the food bill by which people who are disabled, older children, and so forth will have food. But, and here's the big but, no extension for the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, that expires at the end of the year. That is to say, no subsidies will be provided for the 23 million in the Affordable Care Act who will be affected. And that means that they have prohibitive, higher, by multiples, and I've heard various numbers, and I can't say what is the true one, but twice as much, three times as much, in some places, 7 times as much. I don't know. All of those are possible if you have any experience at all with our modern health environment. So they are not going to discuss the Affordable Care Act until the government reopens. Now, that vote, the Senate says, Thune, who is the majority leader of the U.S. Senate for the Republican caucus, he expects a vote by the second week of December. And supposedly that's in writing. I haven't seen the hard copy of the bill, so I'm relying on other sources. Now, if that happened, then it would be sent to the House. If the House agreed with it, then it'd be sent to the president. So, is that going to happen? Well, it may not. First of all, there may be objections and parliamentary procedures that derail the bill. So, for example, I think they moved to pass the bill by consent. The trouble with that is, if any person objects, then you don't have consent. You ask for a roll call, and you can't get it for this bill. So that's why it's next Wednesday instead of today, which gives us time. They may say mischief, I may say productivity. I am encouraged by the fact that Schumer held the line until the end. In fact, he gave speeches in recent days that is the Schumer that I know. Not the Wall Street Schumer, the Schumer who represents the people, the man from Brooklyn, the man who was in Congress before he ran for the U.S. Senate. So, and that happens in these fights. What I want to say also is if you spend enough time in politics, they'll break your heart. Tim Kaine broke my heart. I don't believe that he made the right vote. I have great respect for him. I like him very much. I know him personally. We've had conversations before. If I see him, we'll have a calm conversation about this. He puts a lot of weight on these interim decisions that favor positions he takes. I understand that. The attraction is great to get this over. But getting it over and getting it over right are two different things. And hanging in the balance is the question of the Affordable Care Act. The Dems caved. And the question remains, is SNAP, that is food for a whole variety of people, as or less important than health care, the Affordable Care Act? How do you make a division to separate those two? How do you compromise those two? Is this a splitting of benefits that has been described by FDR as one of the freedoms that he thought should be assumed by every government on earth? And one of them was freedom from want. Do I get to eat? Will somebody take care of me when I'm sick? They would deprive a person of the certainty that they will be taken care of and be able to afford their health care. And in the meantime, in your disabled or difficult situation or age or whatever, you should get food. But then what happens when that expires? This is a real problem in America. And the question is, for example, when it leaves the Senate, this bill, if it is approved, it goes to the House. The House in the Republican caucus, headed by Speaker Johnson, he has a disparate group of disagreeable and disagreeing people. The House can only do so much because they only have a 2-vote margin if everybody votes the way they want. If every Democrat votes the way he or she may. So there's no guarantee if it survives the Senate, Wednesday or whenever, and it goes to conference with the House, will it pass as it stands in the Senate? Will the devotion to denying medical care trump, pardon the expression, the Affordable Care Act? Many remember John McCain going like this on killing the Affordable Care Act when Trump was in the presidency, which I thought was a kind of equal justice for the snide and defamatory things they said about McCain, who had remained in custody despite offers to leave because of his family's prominence in service to our country, and he said he would not take advantage of that. That says something about him. There's a lot I disagreed with him about, but you have to measure the character of a person by who they are in difficult circumstances. Who among us would have wanted to leave? And certainly for an instant, you'd have to think to do it. But would you do it? Would you live with that the rest of your life? Trump is completely happy living with all manner of evil and programs incompatible with the general welfare. And that is in violation of the beginning of our Constitution, in which the charge is to promote the general welfare. So then, if it went to the House and Johnson somehow or other embraced the Affordable Care Act, what do you think Trump would do with that bill? Would he sign it? See, I think the destruction of the Republic is number one on his hit parade. And when he says he's seeking retribution, he didn't say it was limited. It may be everyone. And I'm not being cute here. I think it really may be everyone. All the people he's identified. If he disagrees with anyone, he lets them know, and then he defames them and tries to destroy them so they have no credibility to come back on him. Now, there's another issue that may seem like it's pulled out of the clouds, but I don't think it is, because it's interesting to me and encouraging to me that Governor Newsom went to Brazil, where they're having a several weeks conference on global warming. And I encourage you to say global warming, never use the wiggle word climate change. It's not what it is. There's no question it's about warming. And this was a device early set upon by those who are just happy to drill, baby, drill. The fossil fools, I call them. And there's an important step going on. Governor Newsom goes to Brazil for this conference. Trump sleeps in his office, presumably. Anyhow, is it the afternoon? It's time for his nap. Is he in a press conference? All the better, so we can all record the fact that the man is really not there, not conscious, not attending to business. But others are. They use him, it seems to me, increasingly as a front for whatever the hell they want to do. And our Secretary of State was very, very busy, I assume with the blessing of he who would appear to be Jesus but is closer to Satan. Now, at a distance with threats and distortions, the United States has been bullying other nation states to oppose changes, revenue changes for carbon dioxide pollution, greenhouse gases, if the pollution goes over certain levels or limitations. And we're talking about shipping, which is apparently 90%. I saw a number that said 90% of things we move around the earth are moved on ships. And that may make a lot of sense. I mean, if you've been in any of the larger ports, you see the containers. They're amazing. And everybody wants to pose before them, but they're saying a lot more than just that they're seemingly an infinite number of them. So what happened? Well, it's kind of interesting. There are 100 nation states involved. And China supports the rule, for example, which is kind of interesting, caring about the environment, as well as Britain, Canada, the EU, Japan. About 100 nation states supported it until the United States got involved by our Secretary of State with the blessings of Trump. And what the reports are from ambassadors from and from other embassies is that the United States had its mob mimicking, arm twisting retaliation promised against anyone who would not oppose putting this tax, this revenue enhancement, this penalty on shipping that exceeded certain levels of greenhouse gases. Now, what did they do? Well, they threatened retaliation. They said you wouldn't get docking rights at American ports otherwise. Visas could be denied to members of the embassies. Blacklists from the United States to exclude you from the United States. Penalties, punishment. So ethical pollution begets the pollution of oil and gas. It's quite a sad picture here and abroad when so many people supported this. And the vote in the end for all the arm twisting and threats of retaliation were 57 to 49, I believe. And so what was the resolution? To put it off for another year, which may mean it's dead, as you know, in these organizations, these international organizations, changes of personnel and thought and so forth. It is clear, again, as I said earlier, why would 7 people plus 1 who don't face election next year make a decision when the Democrats were riding high in terms of the support of the people? Why would you give the result to the Republicans? What benefit did they get? What twist of the arm? What promise? Did they just look in a mirror and hypnotize themselves and say, I don't want to be responsible for closing down the government? They couldn't go out and make the speech to the people to say, more people will suffer if we open the government again without an agreement. They will suffer terribly. We literally can forecast how many will die. Are you asking me to vote for something by which people could die? Now, I could understand why you care about food, people getting food. People can die of starvation without food. They can get diseased, and then they might need coverage. And if they're already poor and in the SNAP program, they probably need to invoke the Affordable Care Act. But can they afford the new premiums that will increase in the absence of action by the government? And the government, in this case, the Senate, with the president and Johnson, or not, we'll find out in the days ahead, we'll give you a vote in which we are the controlling majority in both the House and the Senate. How's that vote going to go? We've heard what Trump thinks about the Affordable Care Act. Does he dare touch that third rail in politics, at least in the Republican side of the country? Or is the Republican side of the country getting it? I think they are. I think the polling, I think the votes on the election, I think the rallies, I think some of the court decisions, I think some of the people speaking out on the Hill. And in this regard, I add Schumer to that list. Like I said, these guys can break your heart, guys and gals. But the speech he gave yesterday or today was the Chuck Schumer that I've known over the years. So I'm hopeful he'll stay to the fight. Jeffries already was in it, and he says he's in it to the end, and they're going to work and fight till the very end of this. Is that enough for us? It is what we have. We deal with the resources we have. We, the people, will prevail if we both have the attitude that we care to prevail, that we don't give up, and that we look for those things that we can do that are helpful. Yes, calls, what you can contribute, talking to a friend, attending a rally, going to a political party gathering to talk about what the talking issues are, to talk to those people you can talk to who haven't lost their mind, to the demons that march in the minds of those on the far right. So that's my thinking for this evening, and I appreciate you listening. If you have anything to say, pass it on. I may learn something as well. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, maybe in sunshine on a trail. All the best. Bye-bye.